Welcome back to Bonded by Bravo. We are back after our week off for Thanksgiving, and we're so excited. We have a special guest with us today. We're so excited to have Morgan from Morgan Talks with us. Welcome, Morgan.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we obviously, with us being gone for a week, it seems like there's so much to chat about. Jen, what are we talking about?
I'm dying to talk all VPR updates. There's just so much. Schwartz and Sandy's was canceled, or I guess closed. Following day, the announcement about VPR comes out. Not that I think anyone's really all that shocked by that. And then Kristen's pregnant. Lala, I think, was she on Jeff Lewis? She was on something saying, there were like some headlines coming out of Jeff Lewis, shocker, that she was like, the way that she basically said, like, there will be no reconciliation with Ariana. And I listened to Bravo and Cocktails today, and they had some thoughts on that I thought were kind of interesting. So we can get into that a bit too.
Yeah, I think that was a few weeks ago she was on, because I'm an avid Jeff Lewis podcast listener. And Mala Shady. But yeah, VPR is donezo. Thoughts? I mean, Jenna and I have been saying this for
I have so many thoughts.
A year, I guess, that like just go back to the original idea, because it's so gold. The idea of people working in a restaurant, which, Morgan, if you don't know, that's how me and Jenna actually met. And people working in a restaurant, all the drama that happens there, like it has a great basis.
Yeah, and they keep saying, and I don't want to discredit any of the cast members by saying like they weren't iconic in any way, but the way that people were saying on the internet, I see in the comments, like, lightning in a bottle, can this happen again? Yes, people who work in restaurants at that age are messy. They are just by nature such a mess. And like, that's how, like we just said, that's how Amy and I met. We can speak to this. It was a shit show in the best way, but like we were all unhinged characters. Like every single one of us had our own could have had our own storyline going on any day, frankly. And I don't even think I'm that interesting, but I was that.
Yeah, I think the difference really, though, is the landscape of reality TV. You know, I mean, 10 years ago, nobody had any idea the cultural impact. And I know that sounds like so dramatic, but it's true. I mean, Vanderpump Rules did have a cultural impact in the reality TV landscape. And I just feel like, I'm not going to say that the cast was lightning in a bottle, but I do also think that in today's day and age, nobody is as authentic as they were 10 years ago when it comes to being on TV. So I think that's what makes me sad about the reboot. And I know that the show wasn't going to continue on the path. And like, I'm mourning what was, like I understand watching that last season, we all watched it and we're like, okay, this is not how it's going to be. But for me, still, the news that the cast was getting rebooted, it was still sad to me because I mourn my gateway drug into reality TV was Vanderpump Rules, and I'm like, wow, we're never going to get this group of people together. These kids raised me, I feel like. So that's what it is. It's not so much shocking as it is just people love the nostalgia of it and knowing that it's never going to be the same as it was. I don't think it's going to be the same. I mean, I feel like they tried to do it with Vanderpump Villa. And I don't know if you guys watched that, but yeah, I stopped after like 3 episodes because it just felt so like try hard.
And I think to your point, Morgan, is that 10 years ago, I don't think the drama was as produced in general in reality TV as it is nowadays that we see. I mean, so many of us that have been watching, for 10 plus years, we know when they're producing a scene. And I think towards the end of Vanderpump, it was feeling that way for a lot of us. But I mean, you could not produce Stassi Schroeder. You could not produce Jax Taylor in those first few years, like at Stassi's birthday and the Tom Schwartz, like it was it was so golden. There was nothing like it at that time. It's so true.
I feel like too, there's always this crossroad, and I feel like we kind of started to get this with Summer House, but I think they're navigating it much better than the Vanderpump Rules cast, about the show's premise. Was Vanderpump Rules a show about people working in a restaurant, or was it a show about this particular group of people together, no matter what stage of life that they're in, right? And we say that about Summer House too, where is this show about people, you know, in their 20s going to the Hamptons every weekend and partying, or is it about this particular cast of people? You have Lindsay pregnant, you have Kyle and Amanda, you know, always talking about moving. Who knows if they ever will, but they're not always going to be in that stage of life. So I guess I was just more surprised at the choice that, okay, it's not the cast that we care about in this instance. It's the premise of the show. And when you're on a show for 10 years, I said on my podcast last week, I can't help but think of somebody like Katie Maloney, right? Like, even if she knew that the show was over and she wanted to move on with her life, I would feel like not offended, but it's a business thing. It's not personal, because their business is personal. It's their life.
Yeah.
And especially Lisa Vanderpump, who's an executive producer, right? How much say did she have in the decision to reboot? So if I'm sitting there and I'm Katie Maloney and I'm thinking Lisa Vanderpump, who's like been a matriarch figure to me, has now, you know, had a hand in my firing. Who knows how much they were getting paid? Like, it just has to be such an interesting process to go through for all of them, even though we all saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
I think Katie is fine. I actually think that she is like most at peace with it, probably her and Ariana. And then what I've heard really is that Scheana, Lala, and Brock is apparently the most pissed off, throwing tantrums, and like thinks that he got gypped or whatever, which I think is so crazy. And then Schwartz and James, I think, were even, this was all in Bravo and Cocktails when I listened today, that they were actually willing to take a pay cut to promote what they were doing. And it's just, but the rest of the cast members weren't really budging, and I think that's fine. I just think that a lot of them, I truly think Katie is like, I got nothing to film with these people. Like, I got my business, I got my podcast, I got a different group of friends. She doesn't even hang out with these people, like, ever. Yeah. So it would feel so forced. I do think Lala and Scheana, I think that this is gonna, I'm like, what are they gonna do next? Like, they both got these 2 homes. It's not like they have no money, but it's like, they really need to be thinking about, like, what is next?
Don't you think they're gonna do the Valley?
That's what, I mean, that's what the announcement came out and said that they're officially cast members. I think both of them and Schwartz.
I guess it still has to be seen, like, what capacity that they're going to film in. If it's just like a dip the toes in the water type of situation. But I found Scheana and Lala's statements most interesting, because I feel like, you know, they kind of hinted that they were going to be on the Valley. You know, Lala, who's saying, I hate change, but this one I'm okay with. And Scheana, you know, the rest is still unwritten. And like Lala saying she's okay with this change, when her whole personality for season 11 was how mad she was at Ariana for ruining her chance at a season 12. It's like, that's not adding up. So something has to be, you know, going on behind the scenes. She has to know something we don't about her involvement on the Valley. Otherwise, this would not be her response.
Well, didn't they put out a statement that they said that they are officially cast members now?
I saw that they filmed, but I didn't see that they were like officially cast members or friends of or whatever. There was a Deadline article that said Schwartz, Lala, and Scheana will appear on the Valley. So who knows what that means in terms of.
I just think I'm not surprised that Scheana like wasn't having a tantrum, or that she's just like keeping it in her pants for everyone involved, just to like, not panic and wonder where her, you know, she's probably vlogging up a storm over there to try to get her YouTube up. We'll see. Meanwhile, then we see Ariana at the Macy's Day Parade giving I just was like, I was so confused why she was singing. So happy that she was singing a song that wasn't from Chicago. Just it kind of threw me, but so happy. It seems she's just on her merry way doing her DSW. I'm sure Love Island's gonna have her back this year.
Dan just opened a new bar in New York. I also am wondering if she has any financial investment in that.
I hope for her sake she doesn't. Like, let's not.
Can you hear me?
Not. Yeah.
We learned our lesson there.
Yeah, like let's not get involved.
She does though. I bet she does though.
We'll see how much she promotes it on her social media. And
that already did.
Yeah. Oh, did she?
I've seen it. She already did like 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so, are we shocked that Schwartz and Sandy's closed?
Well, no, and you know, Jenna and I went there right after it first opened, which was also right after Scandoval, and
it was like the height of Scandoval.
Yeah, it was like May,
and it happened in March.
I even think without Scandoval, and this might be crazy, but the location was so bad. It was so bad.
Yeah, I've never been, but I am hearing that it's like really hard to find. It's in a strip mall. There's no signage or anything like that.
Literally in a strip mall. And it's not like the only thing in the strip mall. It's in the back corner of a strip mall. And I think it said it was West Hollywood, but it was actually Hollywood or
it's Franklin Village.
Okay, which is like
Is there any other bars around there, or was it just like a standalone place?
No, there's like a super dive bar next door, and frankly, we only know that because one of their bartenders came in and sat next to us. Remember that kid we were talking to that was sitting next to us?
Oh yeah,
but then it was like a dry cleaner, a pet store.
I think there was a Chinese store.
Yeah, it was like LA. I mean, we don't live in LA, but we've been enough times to know, like, yes, strip malls are sort of their thing. We look at the photos of all the celebrities walking out of Sushi Park, which isn't a straight up strip mall. And I just could never get my head around, like, can you imagine getting decked out in your outfit, looking all cute, and then you pull into the strip mall? Like, no, I could have wore jeans and a hoodie to this.
I mean, we did kind of.
But we were out before. We were at the Beverly Hills
Hotel. To be fair. Yeah.
They were just spending on too much small shit in the beginning. I know. Why do I still feel bad for Schwartz?
I do too. It's so hard for me to be mad at him. I know. I can't either. It's golden retriever energy.
Totally.
I don't think Schwartz is a bad guy. I think
I don't.
He is too easily wrapped up in, you know, the people closest to him. I'm one of those people who also tries my hardest to like see the good in everybody, even if they don't deserve it. And I'm like sitting there telling myself they do not deserve it, Morgan. And I'm like, yeah, but this happened to them when they were 10, you know? And I feel like that is Schwartz, and I can't be mad about that.
Yeah.
The only thing I wish Schwartz would have done differently here is, like, even if he was still friends with Sandoval behind the scene, he was so invested in this bar and like gave it his all. He was there the night we were there. We had even talked to him like, how do you do this every night? And he was like, it is a lot. Like but he kept showing face and doing it and showing up. He went in a financial hole for it. I feel like just for PR purposes, Sandoval should have removed himself from that business. And I think publicly, Schwartz should have done a better job distancing himself. Have that relationship behind the scenes, but maybe front facing. You were able to do it with your wife for 10 years. Like, why can't you do it with him?
But I think Schwartz, like, we never saw pictures after Scandoval. I don't think we saw pictures of Tom Sandoval in that place. And I think that was
they started doing like events promos and stuff there. And like, Sandoval was there. They were doing these watch party things over there. Like they did like a Vanderpump rewatch, and Sandoval they would both be hosting.
I just watched the Secrets Revealed episode from season 11. Did you guys watch that episode?
I don't normally watch them, but I should.
Yeah, I don't ever watch them either. I was wrapping Christmas presents this past weekend, and I'm like, let me just turn this on. And Schwartz said that Schwartz and Greg did ask Tom to remove himself from the business, and Tom Sandoval wouldn't do it. And so I feel like at that moment, that's when the light bulb should have like switched on for Schwartz, but still. And, you know, we talk about this all the time. I mean, even when it was first coming out, the name of the business, like even if Sandoval was to remove himself, like let's say he did bow out gracefully, whatever, your image and your likeness is the name of this restaurant. And there's like no way around that. You know, had you named it anything else, people maybe would have been able to disassociate, but like there's no way to do that. And I think again, that is an instance where Tom Sandoval's ego got in the way in a major way of, you know, his future in business.
And Katie Maloney is sitting there.
Yeah.
I think Schwartz is going to open another bar. It might even be with Greg or a different partner. I think he's seen it through at this point. I think it's going to be like a small dive bar, neighborhoody, and not that whatever the hell they tried to create with Schwartz and Sandy. They put way too much money into their first business. Like I managed a bar for years, and I remember when they were doing this, Amy and I would talk about it all the time. I was like, they are spending on things that like, this is a business that has the smallest profit margins, and they're spending extra on these things that they're going to make maybe 4 of those cocktails a week. And it's like, yeah, those 4 look cool and are Instagram worthy, but like, are they really creating profit for you, or do they just look cool for those couple posts?
Yeah, it wasn't the vibe. That area wasn't the vibe for a cool creative cocktail bar that they wanted to turn it into. So anyway,
Kristen couldn't really keep staff either.
Kristen, the other VPR news, just keeping us on our, like, Kristen's pregnant. I don't think anybody's like surprised. I feel like we all saw this news come in, right? I saw a picture of her posted like a month ago, and I was like, what's under that t-shirt? Because
I just feel bad that this totally overshadowed Kristen's moment. Like, I remember that headline came out at like 9 a.m. where I am in Ohio, and by 12 o'clock the VPR reboot was announced, and I was like, Lisa still hates Kristen so much.
Oh my!
I mean, that's a conspiracy theory, like that Lisa would do that to Kristen. But I mean, we know Lisa has radar online on speed dial. But it literally, I was like, Kristen can't even have an hour without it just not going in her favor. I feel bad.
That makes me giggle a little bit, though. It's just like Kristen's luck. Like, she got the People cover, though, right? Or the People article. So she got paid. She's happy. I feel like whenever I think of them, I'm like, oh, they got their money.
Right.
Well, I guess I'm excited to see this new cast. I know they filmed. We have their Instagram post. We'll see what it's like. I mean, I think when we look at like Southern Hospitality, they were able to pull it off, and it took me the second season for me to get into their vibe, but hopefully the one thing that we all know is that whatever happens in Vanderpump that first season, everyone's going to be gunning to get like the main spot. Everyone's going to try to be Stassi and Jax, and the drama is going to be there just for it. And it's like what you said earlier, Morgan, is like trying to push through, and like the Valley Villa or whatever the heck that awful show was.
Vanderpump Villa.
Vanderpump Villa. See, I think it's like we'll have to try to see through the BS and see if it's watchable or not. But anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, I also just feel like they should have just given them a new show. Like, I don't know why. I just feel like the OG cast, I feel like, should have had agency of the Vanderpump Rules title. When I think Vanderpump Rules, I think Jax, Brittany, Stassi, Kristen. I'm not going to think of this entire new 12-person cast, you know, no matter how hard they try. And so at that point, especially if you are going over to Tom Tom Sum, which in the press release they said that they were going to do, make it a new show. And to me, that also says that Lisa Vanderpump, executive producer, didn't want to let go of her namesake show, because she very easily could make another show with a different name, with the same premise, and not have it be like next gen. But at the end of the day, she has said it on the show, this is my show. And I feel like she's, again, flexing that muscle in the decision to completely reboot it.
And I also want to
know how much pull I think she has.
She's an executive producer. She's funding it.
I know.
And also, now that you're saying that, Morgan, Tom and Pump got like pushed together as one, which is her like last standing restaurant on the Ave in West Hollywood. So that's an interesting. I didn't realize that Tom was going to be shown on it too. Lisa Vanderpump works in mysterious ways. Like,
yeah. I mean, when you think about it, Alex Baskin is also an executive producer, and he's like the head honcho. So I think she's definitely involved in the conversations. I don't know how much, that's just,
I think she's involved in the conversations. I just don't know if I think she has that much pull.
I mean, she definitely has money.
I'm sure we'll find out.
We sure will.
She has money, yeah. But
speaking of Beverly Hills,
it's already in Beverly Hills. Yeah.
Yeah. I am really, really, really loving the season. It's only been 2 episodes, and
Me too.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, same.
Me too. I can't believe I'm enjoying Dorit like this. I never thought about Dorit like ever in any capacity, like love or hate. And now I'm like rooting for her. Like every time I'm watching, I'm like, yeah, you go, girl. But I also don't love Kyle. So I know I'm like kind of in the minority with that.
I don't know how I feel about Kyle. I feel like I respect her, obviously. I mean, as one of the only OGs left. And I do feel like she's the glue that holds it all together in Beverly Hills. I will say I just don't ever really feel like she takes accountability for her part in things. Like I feel like Dorit has made some mistakes. Kyle has made some mistakes. But I feel like historically, even the stuff with her sisters, like we always get the what happened to Kyle side and not necessarily what Kyle contributed to the problem. And I think for a long time, that type of thread had to do with people that weren't on the show, whether it was Kathy or in limited roles, right? Kathy, we did see it with Kim in the earlier seasons, but now we're seeing her go head to head with Dorit, who's on the show, full-time cast member. So you actually are seeing both sides of the story. I mean, we aren't even seeing both sides of the story really with Mauricio, because he's only filming, however much. We got more on his show, Buying Beverly Hills. So I think it's just interesting that we're actually getting to see both sides of an argument and be able to make a more informed, opinion on it, which I am Team Dorit at this particular moment in time.
It's so weird because for me,
so well.
Yeah, and such a good point. I struggle with Dorit because I think for me, I'm just struggling that I feel like she's got ulterior motives and she's gunning for her spot on the show. And so now that she is breaking up with PK and she might need to make her own money and things like this, that she needs to have the spot on the show. And so she came out guns a-blazing. I just don't find her to be authentic in any real way. So as much as me and Jenna talked about this a lot 2 weeks ago on the show, like I want to be on her side, but I just feel like I'm struggling to find her authentic and find that like she really cares about this situation and that she's not just producing herself.
There has kind of always been that criticism about her. I just recently watched, unfortunately, I rewatched the Puppygate season because for some reason my husband wanted to see how Lisa Vanderpump exited the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So I had to show him. Yeah, I know, right? God bless him. So I had to show him, and then I just got sucked back in or whatever. But people would say that a lot. Camille specifically, was like, I just don't know. There's always this era of phoniness about Dorit. I can't tell. So people have said that about her in the past. And I feel like that's, for me, I don't necessarily disagree with you, Amy. I don't know how I feel about the separation with PK and Dorit, because, you know, everybody also is like team Dorit when it comes to the separation. I'm like, well, again, I'm not really seeing PK's side of the story. So I can't say, like, sure, that sit down conversation, there were definitely some moments that we all were like, oh, yikes. But I can't say with 100% certainty that in that separation, I believe that Dorit is 100% in the right.
But I also think there's something about the separation that doesn't feel like she's aware of it. Like, she doesn't seem like it's happening to her. It seems like she's just talking about it so matter of factly, and so, like, when they greeted each other in the restaurant, her and PK, they're like, hi honey, we're still talking 5 times a day. Oh, did you get a new outfit? It doesn't seem that it's hit her yet that they're not going to be together.
I think because he's been away for so long, probably, that she doesn't feel the shift so much in the house. Like when someone's not there ever and then they're just not there more, you're like, okay.
That was a bomb. I think that was a bomb.
I also,
when she said, did you hear that, Jen? When she said, whenever we would get in fights, he would get drunk and then he would leave for a long period of time. And I think that was the first time she let people in to her marriage.
And I do think that I don't think either of them are at 100% fault on a divorce. I think that comes from both sides for sure. And I would imagine that Dorit was probably almost insufferable to argue with. Like, I just can't imagine that would go well for PK, and that's why he would storm out, because he's like, this is gonna go nowhere, I'm out of here, like, forget this. And so she definitely played a role in it. I think they're done for good, though, for sure. He's like got a new outfit, he's like single PK. I'm like, oh boy. Oh boy.
But that's what I'm saying, like, I think he thinks they're done for good. I don't know if Dorit knows what's going on.
He's ready to hit the town. Like, he said, like, you used to be fun and always out with me. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, I mean, she does have, like, you guys have 2 kids. Like,
right.
Well, that was the thing that pissed me off about him. And it was like, this is so typical. Like, you see that, like, yeah, dude, she was fun before she gave birth to your children and is now taking care of them. You expect her to still be the arm candy that she was for you at one point, and now because she can't be that, you want to go trade her in for someone else. And we've seen this
for something new
in the history of housewives who have dated older. And, you know, I think he talked also a lot about their codependency, and we saw this in that dinner where she's like, we talk 5 times a day. And he's like, but we're not going to do that anymore.
I really don't think that he has codependency with her. I think she
No.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. He doesn't have any with
I don't know what, it was kind of him to like say our codependency, but I was like, this is so one-sided.
Yeah. It was interesting for sure to see that. That made me sad for Dorit, just because I think, it just feels like she doesn't know what was happening. And then you have Kyle on the other side of it, where they're talking about her and Mo's divorce, and Sutton's advising Kyle to file, where I think Kyle is like, not naive, but I think almost naive in that she thinks
too
that they're
optimistic about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, even if it can still go well with an attorney, but like, have an attorney, especially when there's that much money wrapped up in their marriage.
For her to use him quoting his book as like her legal document.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
That was frightening. I was like, oh no.
I think can't get over the sadness of it. Like, I know I'm gonna be nuts for this, but like, I still want them to get back together. I know they're not going to. He's literally sledding down Aspen Hills with naked models, which is again gross. And it's like, if I'm Kyle, there's no coming back from that. Like, you've made your bed, you should probably lie in it.
Imagine his daughter isn't seeing that though, too. Like, I would be like, oh no.
Not the best.
Not the best. Go ahead. Sorry, though. I didn't mean to cut you off on your thought.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't think you did.
Okay. Okay, good.
And I think the other thing too, Erica had this iconic line where she's like, we're sitting around, Dorit and Kyle are sitting around fighting, and PK and Mo are out partying it up and living their best life, doing God knows what. Because we all know they're doing God knows what. When
100%.
PK drove away in that Bentley and Dorit goes and with the driver for the night, I'm like, this is like, where's PK going for the rest of the evening, ladies and gentlemen? Like, that was iconic. And Erica Jane's coming through for me this season. I've always loved her.
Yeah.
She just seems like she looks amazing, but she also just seems like she's really being an iconic supporting character on both sides for me.
She came out on the other side. You know,
Yeah.
we were gonna see one way or another what she was gonna do. And I've always said, you know, we're never gonna know if she wasn't involved or how much she did or how much she didn't know. My thing was I didn't like the way that she treated people on camera. You know, that was my biggest thing with her. But at the same time, she was probably in a very stressful time in her life, and I feel like anybody would have a shorter fuse, you know, under those circumstances. But now that she's kind of walked through that and has, like I said, gotten to the other side, we're seeing a different side to her. And I agree.
Yeah.
She's still not my favorite housewife of all time, but I do enjoy seeing this side of her more.
Yeah, for sure.
I do. I love her so much.
I used to. I did. I used to really love her, but I don't know.
It's so funny.
The bad season was bad. I didn't like that.
I think when I think of the bad season, I think it was Hurt, and I gave her a pass, which is weird because I don't usually give a lot of housewives passes. I don't know why you know, when you're like, why am I riding or dying for this person? Like of all the people, we all have our people.
Yeah.
What did you think about the Kyle and Dorit part when Kyle said the reason that I'm mad or the reason that I said that was because of the BravoCon thing?
Ridiculous.
That felt like such bullshit to me.
100%. That felt like she was looking for something to be mad about, because you can't tell me Kyle Richards, who's been on the show for like 15 years, okay? She knows how Watch What Happens Live goes. She knows how BravoCon goes. Like, that to me on the scale of things to happen on Beverly Hills is like the least offensive. And she took it as like the most offensive.
But she was laughing in the moment with her at BravoCon. So it didn't register then. And then it was like, she took some time and was like, okay, I have a checklist of the things that I could potentially be mad at you for. And so when you come for me, or we have to have a conversation on screen, I have some things to pull down from. And it felt like that was the first thing that popped into her head in that moment.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think Jenna, we talked about this before, but like, if any of us were in that situation, it's one of our best friends, and they said, pick between me and your sisters. You're like, if I wouldn't want my best friend to be put in that situation with my sister, and I would expect her to just take the shot. And then Dorit had the best comeback and said it was a joke, things we used to do a lot of, like when we were friends. I really liked that. We talked about, I'm so happy to see Kathy back on our screen, and Kathy being back on our screen in exactly the way that we want her back on our screen, making the jokes, doing the Amazon prank. That's exactly how, like, I don't want to see her fighting with Kyle.
Yeah.
Not that, like, you don't want to see that between sisters. I love having her back, and I loved how they surprised Kyle. It did make me feel sad for Kyle, like her talking about this empty nest feeling, because I think for so long how we saw Kyle on our screens was just surrounded by family and having family dinners, and it seemed like there was such a tight family unit, even to your point, Morgan, which is why still some of us are like, we want to see that back together. It was this fantasy of what a normal, healthy, or what we thought family looked like. And it was sad to see.
Did you guys see? I don't know where I read this or heard this, but that apparently Kyle was chasing down Kevin Costner in Aspen.
I
would die for this. I love this. I think Kevin Costner is so hot. I'm like, yes.
Same. Those are the type of people that I want to see Kyle dating.
Yes, not even
too.
Mo anymore, who again is sliding down, like skiing in Aspen with model. Like, no, thank you.
Or Morgan Wade, who we're not allowed to mention on the show anymore, even though they've been all over God's green earth the past year.
She was on the show. Yeah. She was on the show.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Wait, not only was she on the show, she was on the show to promote herself. Like, the whole thing was like about getting her attention, but now we're not allowed to speak of her again.
No.
And I'm wondering if that documentary is still happening. Because wasn't,
apparently, it's going a different direction now. Whatever that means. I don't know what direction it was going before. So
interesting.
Maybe it's a movie now. I have no idea what's happening. I just know that Kyle said it's going. She said it's going a different direction, but it's still happening. But I'm like, but if we don't even know what direction it's going, like, why even give that contact? Like, it just, I don't know. The whole thing is so bizarre to me. I can't.
That just brings us to I still though, and the one other thing I just want to say about Beverly Hills, Boze. I'm really excited to get to know Boze.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
She feels like the perfect fit in the group of like she's going to bring. I think she seems like she was born to be on this show, and I'm really excited to see how her character develops.
You can tell that production likes her because I mean she was in it right off the bat. And when you think to last season how they treated Annemarie, I mean we didn't even see Annemarie until like episode 6 or 7, and then she had like the dumbest storyline ever. So the fact that we're getting so much content of her so early in the season, I feel like is a good sign.
I'm excited for that. I
actually think the opposite of what you said. I don't think that she's so made for this show, which is why I'm excited to see her.
You mean because of her story?
That's what I'm excited to see how these women react to that.
Say that again, Jen. You broke up.
Wait, what's this? I said I actually disagree with what I just think differently about how you think that she's made for this show and like was meant to be there. I don't think that, which is why I'm excited to see her. She doesn't seem messy. She seems so straightforward that I'm curious to see how these other women are going to respond to that kind of behavior. That very like structured, matter of fact, this is how it is. I'm not going to beat around the bush with you. I'm also not going to get messy with you. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think that they're all going to fall in line to her.
Well, I think you can already see that kind of happening.
Oh, for sure.
Because she also doesn't.
And I'm excited about that.
She doesn't need the celebrity of it. Like she's already on top of every mountain that she ever had to climb. You know,
for sure.
He has nothing to lose at this point.
I think it's going to be good. All right. Do you want to do New York or?
Well, let's talk about Salt Lake City because God knows there's nothing happening in New York. Oh, Salt Lake City. We missed 2 episodes because of our break. And guess what? Oh, did we miss? Okay. So my biggest question is from the Audrey Hepburn lunch, who do we think had the best clip-in bangs? Was it Meredith, Bronwyn, or Angie?
Best is suggest. I think Meredith had the most memorable bangs, so I'm gonna go with Meredith because I will never forget those.
Never. The memes that they just like pull them out. Yeah, they're so good. Bronwyn, I'd say, looked the most like Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that whole, I feel like the meat and potatoes of last week's episode. You know, Jenna wrote in our outline, like, what is everyone fighting about?
I just don't even know.
I know. It gets a lot. It gets to be a lot.
Lisa's talking about a jumpsuit. Mary's yelling about a jumpsuit. the one thing that I want to say is the Todd and Bronwyn of it all is giving, and we've heard this a lot. I think we said it a few weeks ago, but it's definitely giving Tom Girardi and Erica Jane. I don't like him, the way that he is policing, almost the way that she's talking. Like the way that he's talking to her is the way that your dad would talk to you. And I'm going to give their marriage like another 2 to 3 years, just because if they stay on the show, because she's not going to be able to hide from the criticism of the audience.
Yeah, I can't.
She responded to it.
Go ahead.
She responded to a lot of it on the bio files, which that was a pretty good listen actually when she was on there. Nick and Natalie were kind of going, they were like, we have to talk about the Todd of it all. And she's like, we sure do. And she was very forthcoming about it all. So
what did she say?
That he is a little embarrassed on how he's come off. I don't think that to me, what I kind of got is that like he does spend a lot of time out of town. And so he's not like totally, I also don't think I don't think he's watching the Housewives when he's on his free time or out of town. And I truly think he does not know what she got herself into.
Yes.
And is just sort of like, oh, what is happening? And I think if he's going to be away that often, he has to allow her to do her own thing and like let her light shine. And so it's like, or be home and be around for her to like shine her light with you, because you can't have both. Like, I think she wants to stay on the show. And so he's going to have to find a way to support her in it. It sounded like he was receptive to the criticism though.
I could tell immediately that he was putting the blame on the show, right? Because he was like, you don't yell at our, whenever they were wherever and they were having that fight in the pool. He's like, you don't do this with your girlfriends or whatever. So it's like, okay, that makes me think, well, is she just kind of playing along? Does she know what the Housewives are about? And he's like, what is this? Because I don't know what's going on here. And then when she, uses see you next Tuesday at a dinner table, he's like, you don't say that, like, but Housewives do, So I feel like it's a fine line that we're walking. And I don't know if it is the fact that he is a little overbearing and over controlling, or if there's a little like she doesn't normally act like this and he's calling her out because he doesn't.
I think it's that.
Yeah.
I think it's that. I don't know that he's so controlling. He's never around. So True. It's like, how controlling can you be if you're not there? I do think it's like, he's really like, what is going on here?
But I also think that she's too impressionable, that if she stays on the show long enough and people start getting in her ears about the way that he's treating her, that she will start thinking about it differently. Like she'll start thinking.
Impressionable.
I mean, the way that
she is. Do you guys remember how old?
I think she's young. She's
39.
Like
39. She's 39.
Yeah.
Because I just Googled her whole background recently, because she went to high school with like my friend.
Oh, I was like, went to high school.
No, went to high school with my friend. They met and then met her husband at the Battery, which is like this like Soho house in San Francisco. And so I like got the kind of like scoop on her. And from what I've heard, like she's kind of the same.
But that's what I mean. Like, I just don't think, like, not being impressionable, but then putting on an act and acting different in front of her husband because she knows that she wants to be on a show. Like, I don't know. I think we'll see how it plays out. She definitely has been a great add to Salt Lake and has come in hot and keeping it interesting so that we're not still hearing Lisa Barlow fight with Whitney and and Heather.
What
and
is this might be an unpopular opinion, but like, what does Meredith Marks bring to the show?
I mean, I've heard rumors that she's going to get demoted.
Like, I am so confused every single week. Like, why is this woman here? I'm like, not into
the rumors.
Wait, so you heard rumors that she's getting demoted?
Yeah, I mean, they're not reliable. I'm pretty sure it
Okay.
was like a Dumois situation. But I mean, when you look at the cast collectively, I think a lot of people have that same opinion.
Okay. This
Jenna.
is great for me.
like
So it is what it is.
And her like storming out, like,
Always.
thank God you're doing something. Like, at least, I mean,
I don't even know what she was storming out over, to be honest.
the whole thing was just.
I feel like when she comes on screen for me or starts talking, it goes into like a blurry. Like I just don't even like it's muffled.
Just immediately
like,
black out.
It's just like I'm not taking her in at all. Like my brain is just like no.
And half the time she's like slurring her words, and it's just I could have.
When she got mad about the hearing aid implant and was like, "Oh, we're making fun of impairments now," and I was like, "Oh, girl, this is a reach. This is such a reach."
That one went. That really. Like, I do have to say
from
though,
the bottom of the barrel for an argument there.
There have been one too many Real Housewives of Salt Lake City dinners with the husbands involved. I need them to take a step back from that. Like, take a step back. We don't need so many husbands at the dinners. Let the ladies be dramatic and have their fun and yell at each other without the guys being there. Like, this isn't Jersey. They're not bringing the same entertainment. We don't need them.
I feel like they might be trying to recreate, you know, that the Jersey
with Salt
effect.
Lake, with the Salt Lake husbands, like
just I mean,
crowd,
them being so integrated, because they're way more integrated this season than they ever have been in the past. And honestly, like I've said it before, when I'm watching Jersey, I prefer the husband scenes over the wives half the time. So I kind of feel like they're testing the waters with that, but like we said with Vanderpump, kind of, you know, they're just a breed of their own. Like you can't recreate that husband, the bond with each other, the history that they all have.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
I agree. And I mean, pushing with the Salt Lake guys, like they're not the ones. I think if, you know, I'm like, who else would it be? Maybe the New York. Like I'd like to see Pavitt have a few drinks, but anyhow. I think the other interesting thing that was really, I think we got to see a different side of Mary this episode. And Mary can be, for me, Mary can be very off-putting at times and come off very harsh, very abrasive for me personally. But I think we got to see a very vulnerable side when she had this conversation and approached her son, Robert, about what was going on with him. And I think this was very historic in Housewives history for, you know, almost having an intervention on camera. It was really wild to see.
Yeah, the only person we've seen do this was Lori from the OC,
that's
right?
what I was thinking. Yeah.
And yeah, this conversation, how do we know how old he is? He's graduated high school, right?
21.
Okay, so the thing that kind of shocked me when she asked him how long and he said 16. And I was like, oh man, it really does go on so much longer than you ever think it does.
Wow.
That was so heartbreaking. I remember when we found out about, I mean, Amy knows this, but someone close to me had gone down this path, and you think it's only for the time that you see it bad, like kind of at the point where Mary's having that conversation. And then you find out, no, this has been going on for the better half of a decade. And so like, it's just the way that I'm sure as a mother, like the way that your brain tells you, like, it's fine. It's a phase. You'll come out of it. It could just be this, maybe just smoked a little bit of pot. Like I can't even imagine the mental gymnastics she's been doing for the last several years. And I thought it was really brave of him to let this be filmed, not just filmed, but like put on air as well. Because they could have cut that.
Yeah. I think, you know, at the crux of it, you know, we talk a lot about how much reality TV has changed over the past decade. You know, I don't want to say this particular scene is what made us like reality TV to begin with. I think the overall sentiment is people's real stories that they have to tell, you know, and their real hardships. And because that's something that a lot of people can relate to. And I think in the housewives world, we see a lot of facades, you know, with the money and the cars and the houses. And half the time, you know, they're doing criminal activity, some of them, you know. So I think to see something so vulnerable and honest on a medium like Housewives was just something that we haven't seen in a while. I thought it was very powerful, very moving. I don't know the details of what went on between the moment that was filmed and the decision to put it to air. I mean, I really hope that they all had a conversation about that together, you know, because technically if something's filmed, they don't have to ask your permission to put it on.
If it's already signed,
Yeah. But I'm just really hoping because it's such a sensitive and delicate topic that they had a conversation with Mary, with Robert Jr., and that it was their decision to want to show it.
And to your point, Morgan, just to your point, Morgan, too, because it was obvious that while that conversation was happening, he was under the influence. And so you want to know that, like, if he is sober now, that he is comfortable sharing that. Yeah.
I hope they keep the recovery private, though. I don't.
And that's
like to me, this conversation. I think you got it. Like, I think moving forward, I think it's great that they gave us this conversation. I think there's women, mothers especially, who watch these shows and are watching that thinking like, I have to have this. Either I have to have this conversation soon, or I've had to have this conversation soon, or they know a friend that has had to do it. But I think I'm not a mother, but I really hope maybe moving forward that like they get to do the rest of it in private.
Yeah. And kudos.
Recovery is such a lifetime long process. So it's like,
kudos to Mary.
Yeah. I think we're about to say the same thing, Amy. The way she navigated that conversation was I was impressed with her.
Me too.
You know, because it's like, I put myself in her shoes for 5 seconds. I'm like, what would I say? And I'm like, I have no idea what I would even say or where I would begin. And I just feel like the way she handled that with such care. And, you know, like she said, I'm not judging you, but we have to figure something out here. I was just like, I mean, it sounds horrible, but I was sitting there thinking like, if I'm ever in a situation like this, I'm going to look back on this moment and remember the way that Mary treated her son with love and compassion, while also, you know, a little bit of tough love too.
And I think to that point, Morgan, as viewers, we have never seen this side of Mary. We don't, even when she has mothered Robert Jr. in the past, it was still very like superficial. This opened us up to a whole different side of Mary that us as viewers have not seen. And it made her more human to me, instead of just, she's been very much a character to me because she hasn't let us in. And not to say that she needed to do this to let us in, but the way that she handled this situation as a mother was very admirable. And to your point, it blew me away by how well she handled it, because, you know, it's something that's incredibly difficult to navigate. And hopefully, to Jenna's point, the rest, that Robert Jr. is doing well, and that only things we hear from here are the up and up. So Roni, to get into another difficult conversation, I think, oh gosh, this one, okay, first, just hard transition into, I just want to talk about Brynn for 1 second. Morgan, what are your thoughts on Brynn in general, and what were they last season and what are they this season?
I mean, just to be like quite honest, I'm a bit of a prude. So like the over sexualization of her personality, like we just could not be in the same room together for very long, I think. So, and I get it, you know, to each their own. That's her deal. That's her shtick. I think she's cute. She's funny, but like, to me, it gets a little bit old. That's just how I feel about it.
It's like
I'm not even prude, and it's too much. It's like she's like
a one-trick pony. We get it. Like, this is your joke. You think it's funny. You also want to hit on women. It's fine.
when we recorded our first episode right after the first episode of this season, I had said to you, Aim, I was like, I feel like she's turning up the volume on Brynn. Like, she's like, okay, I saw what the people wanted. Let me turn it off. And we had a conversation about like, well, don't all housewives do that? And I was like, yeah, I guess to some extent, but you can feel Brynn went to the knob and was just like, this is what the people want, and let's amp it up. Like, I actually don't even think this is who she is really normally. I think she did it a few times last season, and that was what got the audience talking. And so then she like honed in on that this season. And it is falling so flat.
And talking about like not being authentic. Like nothing about what she's doing this season makes, like, usually in the second season, you feel like you're starting to get to know the character. I keep saying the characters because that's what they are at this point, but you feel like you're starting to get to know people. And I don't feel like Brynn's letting us in. And I would love to get to know her beyond that. My favorite scene of hers this season was her and Gideon talking about potentially having babies. I was like, oh, I really like her. And I loved her last season. But you know, to all of our points, the shtick's getting old about sex and hitting on
queer baiting. So much queer baiting.
Come on. Anyhow, then we get into, I think Erin opens up about having an abortion and has a conversation with Jenna about also having an abortion. Super brave conversation to have. She also ends up telling her dad on camera. And I think this is one of the last conversations that was filmed with her dad before he passed away. So really powerful episode. And I'm sure hard episode for her to watch back this week. Thoughts?
I mean, honestly, I hate that this is the only moment from Roni to like break through, you know, on behalf of Erin. I do think it takes incredible bravery for her to talk about something like that on camera, something that has never been talked about before on the Housewives. But the fact that this whole, I mean, I like low key stopped watching it a couple episodes ago and didn't like, cause like, honestly, just because a show's on Bravo and it's my job doesn't mean that I have to pretend to like it and watch it. So like, if I don't like it, I'm going to let you know. I don't like it.
You weren't missing anything either.
Yeah, and like, that's what people have said. Like, it is what it is. But I watched this past episode, and like we said with Mary, you know, it's the moments that make you feel like this person is a human. Where we just talked about how Brynn, you know, kind of a little bit robotic in the way that she's coming across. That moment made me feel like, okay, this is who Erin is as a human, and I'm starting to understand her heart, her relationship with her family, you know, a past struggle that she's been through. And that is 10 times more impactful than an over-sexualized shtick, you know, a la
so
Brynn.
much.
Even for all of Erin's flaws, I do like Erin because I feel like I'm getting to know her. I know about an argument that she, like a big thing that happened with her and Abe, all that, like he sold a bunch of their crypto or whatever, or Bitcoin. Like that to me was kind of interesting. Same with Jessel. Like, I feel like we get to see their relationships and their families in a way that we don't and we see a little bit of Jenna's as well, but I feel like Jessel and Erin are the ones that I feel like I know the most about. And so whether they do things that annoy me or not, to me, they're kind of like carrying the show a bit.
They're
the faces that when I think about the show, those are the two faces that come to mind for me. They feel like they're this, I don't know, like how Luann is to the original. Like, these are going to be, I think, those two for this show.
If it survives, because other than this, what else are we even talking about on that show? Like, what's, you know, Uba and Brynn are going to get into a fight apparently at some point, and then, you know, we'll see. Jenna,
he was talking on his podcast and he said they're staying with it. This is the cast, so sit tight. Like, I don't know. He didn't say for how long, but he said this is the cast that they're using. So we better.
That's the thing, though, because if it fails, they're losing money. Like, there's no way around it. You know, these shows are not cheap to produce. And even when you see like Vanderpump Rules, we hear that people were asking for too much money. They'll drop you like that. So I feel like too, Andy, not that I don't believe him, because I do believe him, but he also will never say anything negative. He can't. He can't come out and say it's flopping. We're not going to do it. You know, the most he will do is we're looking at it. We're figuring it out, you know, all these things. And I think when you look at RHONY and, you know, like you said, Amy, what else is sticking out? The only other thing that people talked about from this season of RHONY is a bad thing, the prank. And how much everybody hated the prank, right? And that's right now is what is defining this new era of RHONY. And that's not good. And I know Andy Cohen wants to say that they're going to stick it out, and maybe they will for another season, but people got to write checks.
I will say he did say something bad about the prank, though. He said, I never like pranks on these shows. He's like, no pranks.
They never work. The truth.
They never work.
Sprinkle of the truth.
Yeah. Well, they never. The pranks don't work, especially a pregnancy prank.
Yeah. What are we? In 11th
women
grade?
who were and like women who were all trying to conceive. It's like it was so weird.
Yeah.
Well, and then the next episode now it's about abortions. Like it's just
yeah. Morgan, before we let you go, this is a question that we did not prep you for, but that we ask all of our hosts. If you could give your top 5 housewives in no particular order, who would they be?
Okay, this is a trick question, though, because I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm believer in that you are allowed to like a housewife for one season and dislike them the next season. So
that's what Jenna says.
I stand on that.
Jenna says you can like them one week and not like them the other week. And ever since she gave me that permission, it changed my life.
Yes. So to have like a top 5 of all time is hard because there are moments that they change. But I will say people that I look forward to watching or did look forward to watching. I mean, there has never been a funnier housewife than Nene Leakes. It's just a fact of life. I love Sonia. Sonia also is a hoot. She makes for a fantastic TV. When it comes to Beverly Hills, it's hard to pick one for Beverly Hills. It really is. And it's so hard because I'll tell you, I want to say Eileen, but she's not a goat. But I just like her, and I would like to have her back. I'm rewatching the Amsterdam season right now, which is why she's like fresh in my brain. So I'm gonna throw a curveball and say Eileen.
Okay, underdog. We've never had an Eileen.
Number 4, I am obsessed with Angie Katzenevas. I love her. I feel like I don't know. I just love her. I feel like if I were to have dinner with somebody, it would be Angie K. And then, okay, I need one more. I got one from Beverly Hills.
I need from Jersey or Miami or OC.
I'm thinking very hard about this right now.
I know, and we didn't prep you for this.
I'm going to say Emily Simpson.
Yes, that's my girl.
Yes, because
Emily Simpson is.
I pretty much am going by whoever I would want to sit next to on a plane. That's the way that I funneled it through. And gave me
I love that. Imagine sitting.
Oh, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, in 17C. I would not be sitting next to Lisa Barlow in 17C.
Love that. Morgan, this was amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Tell everybody where they can find you.
TikTok and Instagram at Morgan P Talks. And then my podcast episodes drop every Thursday. It's Morgan's Pop Talks, Apple, Spotify, and you can also watch on YouTube.
Amazing, Morgan. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of our listeners. We will be back next week with an all new episode. Our new episode drop dates are now Tuesdays. So stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bonded by Bravo Pod, and listen wherever you find your podcast at Bonded by Bravo. Thank you.